Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Breakfast with Blaha. Today I'm having Greek yogurt and almond butter. Keeping this one simple. Alright, a lot of people this year have asked me, every time one of these bodybuilders dies, has a heart attack, whatever, like, Jason, why don't you cover these anymore? Cover this in a video. And I don't want to cover these people by name. I've already explained why I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to cause ill will. I don't want to cause harm that's unnecessary, and I feel like it's disrespectful and hurtful to their loved ones. So I don't want to do videos on these individuals for money by name, right? I feel like I'd be profiting off basically ill will towards their loved ones. I'm not comfortable with that. So instead, what I'm going to talk about, I made some videos a few years ago saying, hey, in the next few years, and I was saying this up to 5 years ago, all these hardcore bodybuilders are going to be dropping like flies. And several people have chimed in and said, I remember you making videos using those words. So the question becomes, how did I know that? Because here's the problem. Everyone jumps up and says, it's steroids. No, that really isn't the cause. I mean, you don't even have evidence for that, particularly testosterone. I predicted it based upon what I know from real-world experience, observation, being able to look at data and use some common sense and see the sort of doses these guys are using, both from people I've known who've talked to IFBB pros and other really hardcore guys, all the way to the Rich Piana death stack. And it's very obvious to me what sort of doses and combinations they're using, because I've been around this world a long time and I know how big guys can get on different things. Right? I have a real good idea. And this isn't about abuse anymore. People say, oh, it's because they're abusing steroids. No. Guys who abuse steroids still very rarely die, because we're dealing with a sliding scale. And short of things like Winstrol and a couple other things, you don't even have scientific evidence that most anabolics, and particularly testosterone, are that harmful to health when compared against things like alcohol, tobacco, so on. Things that are perfectly legal over the counter are probably more deadly. Those things are actually most likely, based upon the evidence, probably more dangerous. And that's reality. People say, how could you say that? Well, okay, take out all the studies with Winstrol. Everyone knows Winstrol's bad for a whole host of reasons. We know that. All right, you have studies on 500 and 600 milligrams of testosterone done for 5 months straight. Health markers perfectly fine. Healthy young men. Right? There's nothing in the blood work of those young men that would indicate any higher risk of cardiovascular disease. In fact, all those young men who in those clinical trials actually had better blood work on hefty doses, that would be a hefty dose, they had better blood work than the average American who's obese. They're healthier, right? So just being active alone and using testosterone in amounts that some people would call abuse, I don't, technically produces better blood work than someone who eats McDonald's 5 times a week and is overweight. You're still going to be healthier, quite a bit healthier, if we go by the blood work. I don't have evidence. Same thing, something like anadrol. A lot of people are scared of it. We have clinical trials of men put on 100 milligrams a day. Men in their 50s. And their blood work doesn't look that bad. It looks reasonably good. Like, not serious risk if they don't drink alcohol with it. They do not drink. Well, that's 700 milligrams a week. Most people would say that's abuse amounts of anadrol. You don't have evidence that even combining that 2 combination together cause problems with blood work or health markers. Not really there. Evidence is lacking. Arnold and Franco Columbu and all those guys abused heavy amounts of anabolics. They're still around. What changed? So why are these guys different? Well, number one, we're not talking about 500 milligrams or a gram anymore, right? We're not talking about that. That's not what these guys are using. No one gets big by bodybuilding standards today off a gram of gear a week. It's not going to happen. Those are gym rat doses. There's guys competing in powerlifting in the 181, very successfully, by the way, at 180 pounds, using 2 grams a week. Put that in perspective. So nobody's on double or triple or 4 times TRT dose getting big. It doesn't happen. So what are they doing? 5 grams a week, 10 grams a week? Dallas McCarver's autopsy. Look at the blood work. Look at the fact that it was 100 times the therapeutic dose, or the reference range, the middle of the reference range for testosterone, 100 times the amount. Meant he was using 10 grams, roughly 10 grams a week. Not 500 milligrams, not 1 gram, 10 grams. Okay? People say, well, how did it, you just take an extra pill? No, that all has to be injected, and these are painful injections. This is a guy who's sitting around just shooting up oil all day long. Okay, this is a guy who every single day gets up and was drawing up a big syringe with 3 cc's of oil 7 days a week. We have that. We have the doses of anabolics. Then we have all the growth hormone peptides, IGF-1. Right? We have all that stuff. And they use heavy amounts. A lot of it. We've now left testosterone. Growth hormone in high doses has its own health risks. We're aware of them. It's a big factor. They're stacking that. All right, then we get into 2 of the really deadly ones. I'm going to argue that these 2 things that are very popular with bodybuilders, and they've gotten more and more so, are actually more dangerous than anabolics. Insulin. We're using heavy doses of insulin. Now that's dangerous. That's real dangerous. We're using diuretics to get dry. Plenty of bodybuilders have been hurt by that. Even Flex Wheeler admitted that's why he had to have his kidneys removed. The diuretics. Then we get over into AIs. I actually believe most of the cardiovascular disease that people get from anabolic related, or the bad blood work, I actually personally believe that it's the AIs causing it. And I've seen the same thing in people I know whose TRT doctors prescribe them this stuff. In small amounts, their blood work gets way worse. I think that's actually what causes it. All right, everyone's fear of estrogen. Estrogen actually reduces cardiovascular disease, by the way. Lowering your estrogen should be the last thing on your mind. You want to live longer. All these guys want to get super dry. They crash their estrogen. That'll kill you. That also causes most of the tendon tears. I believe that's the biggest culprit. All right, so you have all that. And then you have the party drug element. There is a party subculture that's developed, and I've seen it firsthand. I've lost a friend who isn't caught up in all this in the bodybuilding world. I'm not going to get into his name and everything because I don't really want to discuss that in public. But he had been on one of my videos before a long time ago, spotting me in a gym. He got caught up in this whole scene. All right. They use recreational drugs on top of all this other stuff. A lot of them use tons of painkillers because they train like crap and they don't know how to train. They end up beat up all the time. And they take painkillers on top of all this other stuff. What we're dealing with is extreme polydrug abuse. And here's the thing. When you start taking more than 3 different drugs at 10 times the therapeutic dose or higher, you should expect to die young. Okay, I don't care what the drug is. Because that's not just abuse, right? That's not abuse anymore. We've gone to the extreme. And I'm not anti-steroid. Right? Some people do act like I am anti-steroid. I'm actually not. I'm only against fake natties and people lying. I'm only against people lying about it. I am perfectly fine with a guy getting on camera and admitting to penning 2 grams of test a week to be a better competitor. And nothing but respect, no problem. I have no problem with that because he's not lying. He's not conning people. I don't have a problem with gear, I have a problem with the lying. But you get over to what modern bodybuilding is doing, it is a level of abuse that is mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing. And anyone who's hearing that and saying, oh yeah, man, I see these bodybuilders dying, I better tell my friend who uses testosterone to quit. See, that's stupid. Because your friend is probably using, in an average week, 1% of the drugs that these guys use. Okay, total combinations, cocktails, and because of the polydrug abuse. It's not the same thing. It was predictable. Anyone with common sense watching this happen saw this coming. We saw this coming. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.